you mentioned Scott Bessent. I think one of the things that even Democrats concede has been successful about this administration is Scott Bessent, who never had a job like this in his life, stepped in as Treasury Secretary and is giving credit not just for managing the world economy and dealing with lots of different issues, but as a public presence, that he's been extremely powerful in using his words. I've said this before, Scott Bessent in just 7 months has already done more with the megaphone of the Treasury Department than Janet Yellen did in 4 years to advance the agenda of the president, right? Yep. Today, he made what appears to be arguably the biggest mistake, at least public mistake, of his tenure, speaking at a Breitbart event. This is number, where is this one? That 9B.
9B.
9B. Scott Bessent talked about the savings accounts, the child savings accounts that are embedded in the reconciliation law. And he said to this group that this represents a backdoor for privatizing Social Security. Now, brief history of the use of the term privatization in Social Security. No one who's for what the Bush people called personal savings accounts, no one uses privatization anymore, because you don't need to be Frank Luntz or some sort of focus group savant to know that using the phrase privatizing Social Security is like the very last thing anyone in politics wants to say, because it scares the bejesus out of people who are reliant on Social Security. As of right before the show, when I last checked, the White House and the Treasury Department had not clarified this. So, Dan, you first. What do you make of Scott Bessent's talking favorably about the concept of these Trump-style savings accounts leading to a backdoor effort to privatize Social Security? How big a gaffe is that, and how would you explain it away if you were inclined to do so?
It could be significant. I'll be curious if this was on camera, and of course, it doesn't help that it was at a Breitbart event. Look, you said it. Touching, Social Security has been the third rail. The Trump White House today was talking about health and technology to help people, track their health, targeted at seniors. They know seniors tend to be some of the most loyal voters, particularly in midterm elections. This scares people. I mean, the irony is when Bush tried to do it a year and a half later, we got the financial crisis. Not a cause and effect, but just bad timing in terms of the last time that was on the table. So I would be very curious. Trump said he would never touch Social Security. Said the same thing about Medicaid. If they are looking to hit this, Democrats will sense an opening.
Kaivan, often people in the punditry class will say that something happened. Well, they'll say, I guarantee you this will be in political ads in the next election. They say they guarantee. And it's often wrong. I think no matter how they walk this back, no matter what kind of policies they pursue, do you agree with me that this is going to be in Democratic ads next year?
I do agree, but I think, Democrats have this ability to miss the opportunity that we've constantly seen. And I think part of it is they just don't tell a narrative and then pull a thread like this and weave it into that narrative. And I'd say, the number one message they have on their side, other than Epstein and some of those, sort of tangential things, is that this moment is about the billionaire class versus everyone else. And this is part of that story. And so I'll be looking to see, Cory Booker obviously wanted to have a moment. Ro Khanna tries to have these moments. Who can make a moment of this? And also the larger story there.
All right, Hogan, there's nothing I like more than play acting with you. So let's do a couple. Let's do a couple of scenes. The first scene is you're standing backstage with Secretary Bessent. It is on camera, by the way, and we'll look at it in just a moment. You're standing backstage with Secretary Bessent, and he says, "Hey, Hogan, in my remarks out there, I'm going to mention that the Trump savings accounts could be a great backdoor to privatizing Social Security. What do you think? What would you say?"
First of all, I'd say I'm so glad two people like you and myself, Mr. Secretary, are from South Carolina. I'd be really happy to remind him about that.
Yeah.
This is something most assuredly they will try and clarify.
Hogan, we're play acting. We're getting to that.
No, I know that.
We'll get to that clarified. Would you, if you were staffing him, would you tell him I wouldn't say it that way? Like you tell him not to say backdoor route to privatizing Social Security, right? You'd say, don't say that, Mr. Secretary.
I would make sure that the next time he went out to have the conversation, backdooring a way to end Social Security, privatizing Social Security is not the
correct. So now you're sitting in the White House, and you're on speakerphone with the Treasury comms director,
Mhm.
and you're writing the clarification. Write that clarification. All right. So statement from the Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for Public Affairs. What would you say? What the Secretary meant to say?
Well,
how would you walk that back?
If it's Donald Trump, he's probably not going to couch it in terms like what the Secretary meant to say. What he will say most likely is, I ran on and won on not touching Social Security.
That's what Trump will say.
I'm not touching Social Security.
I agree. Good hand gestures. What should Bessent say though? He's got to address it. I mean, if they don't put out a statement, he's going to be asked about it. What would you say?
I didn't see the rest of it, so I don't know how to spin him out of it. It seems like it's a pretty easy spin to get off of that topic.
All right. Hogan tried the oldest dodge in the world, which is to say, well, I didn't see it. Well, here it is.
Bring it.
Want you to understand it. We want, it's almost like, if you get a pet, you understand everything about your pet. So if you have these accounts, like, why are you investing it this way? How are you doing it? How can you understand the power of compound interest? And also at the end of the day, that, I'm not sure when the distribution level date should be. Whether should it be 30 and you can buy a house? Should it be 60? But in a way, it is a backdoor for privatizing Social Security. Like, Social Security is a defined benefit plan paid out that, to the extent that if all of a sudden these accounts grow and you have in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for your retirement, then that's a game changer too. So,
all right, Hogan, that's so much context it almost bored me. So now that you've seen the full context, how would you have the Secretary walk that back, either in a statement or the next time he did an interview?
Neither the president, myself, or anybody in this administration is going to touch Social Security. We ran on that. We won on it. It's safe for all Americans, and it will remain safe. We're talking about these accounts and how they will impact Social Security in the future. There is no plan, no desire to touch Social Security. Those seniors deserve to be protected, and we're going to make sure they are.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why Hogan Gidley makes as much per month in retainer payments from his clients as Hunter Biden made from Burisma.
Yeah,
that is
only.
That is a 50 grand a month response. Very good, Hogan.
Well, let me ask you this, Hogan. You happen to know our current speaker. Do you think that the House folks come out pretty quickly and tell candidates to say exactly what you just said, even if Trump doesn't say a word?
Well, if you see candidates or members of Congress on the campaign trail parroting exactly what I just said, you'll have your answer, because I guarantee you I'll be typing a few things up for the speaker here momentarily and sending it into his inbox.
And I'll just say, because I'm not standing for elective office, the tragedy of this is probably one of the best ways to deal with the future of Social Security is to allow people to have personal savings accounts where the Social Security voluntary, where their Social Security benefits can be invested in the market to take advantage of the magic of compound interest.
Had they done that under George W. Bush years ago, think about where they would be now. What was the stock market under George W. Bush versus where it is now?
The people on retirement would shift from eating hot dogs to caviar.
Well, as long as they're retiring today, not 2009.
They'd have to get through that little hiccup. Right. One more topic, and then we're going to go to your questions. As I said, the Texas late. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Hogan.
Hey, just real quickly, I went to a funeral yesterday, and I was talking to one of my relatives, and they came up to me, and literally the first thing out of their mouth was, "No one's touching Social Security, right?" This is obviously an issue that the American people care about, and so the quicker they can get out and put a stamp on this, clarify and be declarative about it, I think they'll be better off.
If I'd be curious to see if any Democrat who wants to run for president in 2028 has a web video up by tomorrow morning with that Bessent thing in it. Because I mean, in this day and age, you could cut that thing on your phone and have it up. Have it up. I'll be curious to see who jumps the quickest. Because again, I'm sure Scott Bessent will walk it back. I'm sure that Donald Trump's going to say what Hogan said. I'm sure they're not going to have legislation to use a backdoor to privatize Social Security. But man, saying privatization, Social Security, and backdoor in the same sentence. That's with
Breitbart behind you.
That's like Hall of Fame gaffe for a guy who up until now, again, has been extremely powerful in using the bully pulpit of the Treasury. Want more great clips like that?
I've got an idea. Hit the subscribe button, be part of the Two-Way community, never miss a clip, and you can always watch our full episodes, join them live, go to twoway.tv.